Hello, this is going to be the webinar for October 2017 for the elementary and middle school assessment coordinators. My name is Tim Peterson. I'm the Director of Assessment for the Madison Metropolitan School District, and I'd like to welcome you to this. I realize that not everyone can make the meetings, the face-to-face meetings. It's great to see everyone, but I also understand that schedules are what they are. So we're going to get started and take a look at the PowerPoint that we used during the meeting. We'll also take a look at a couple other things as we go. Hopefully you've had the handouts that are available on the website, and we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. So let's get started. Just want to welcome you again. This is the October 2017 meeting. This webinar will have essentially the same exact material that we covered in the face-to-face meetings on Wednesday afternoon. So again, I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar. The agenda for today is as follows. We're going to spend some time talking about the access updates for 2017-18, and we'll be getting ready for access testing. This is the first of many major assessments that rely on technology that is critical for the assessment itself. We'll talk about Cogut briefly. The Wisconsin Forward exam is on the horizon. New for dual language instruction. Those of you who have that program in your school is something called APPLE, which is a language proficiency test for other languages other than English. So this will be specifically for Spanish. We'll also talk about some of the web resources. I'll do that in a moment. The MAP scores and reports, we'll talk about that. Climate survey and something called Dane County Youth Assessment, which will be out in February. Talk about opt-outs, and you're actually listening to the webinar. So let's take a look first of all at some of the resources. I know that not everyone is familiar with the resources that we have available, as if you are new to the role, you may not have had a chance to take a look at that. So our Office of Assessment Administration website, go to Departments on the district website and scroll down to Assessments, and you will wait, and then it will show up. So here's our website. Website is basically designed with two components. One side is going to be for public-facing information, and the other side is going to be for the more technical information needed for assessment coordinators. So also, over on the left-hand side, if you click on either elementary or middle school, you'll get to a page designed for you specifically. It's open to everyone. It is a public-facing page. But I want to share with you the fact that this is now, it's got a calendar, and you can take a look at the calendar, scroll through it, and when you find, for instance, our next meeting is in November, so here we go, assessment monthly meeting, November 14th. If you click on that, it will tell you more details about the location. This is next month is at Flom Road, but it also allows you to copy it to your calendar. So click on that and it will automatically put that on your calendar for you. Other things that you'll find on this website and this page are the action planning calendars. So you'll those that we send out, as well as an archive of what's gone on in the past. You'll find some of the district benchmarks and proficiency indicators, as well as the MAP cut scores, because these are the ones that are most often asked for. We are using the same MAP cut scores as we have for the last several years. And today's meeting is a coordinator meeting, so it's under the October 2017 meeting. On this page, you will have agendas. Here's the handout for you, and this is regarding access. The PowerPoint itself is here, and here is where the webinars are going to, the recorded webinars will be set up. So that's what you can expect if you take a look at the website. And so now I want to go back into our PowerPoint and continue on with our information that we'd like to share with you. So, beginning with access. What's new for 2017? So this is a handout that you have. If you just open that up electronically, you'll see all these blue highlighted hyperlink text are live in the PDF document. What's really new is the portion of getting students ready for testing. As you know, it's good to have students at least aware of what they're going to be doing. There are some practice items on that. Also, someone always asks the question of how much time should we spend preparing students for this assessment? I would suggest that if you have students who are new to the United States, who have never taken Access, you absolutely want to familiarize them with what it is that they're going to be doing. So providing them with an overview and some of the sample questions would be a good thing. Excuse me. If, however, you've got students who've taken this 3 or 4 times, nothing has changed. And so, again, what they are really working on is just how proficient are they in the language, and they should be comfortable with, or reasonably comfortable with, the assessment itself. You'll also notice on here test materials and ordering. Again, for grades 1, 2, and 3, there are paper writing assessments, tier level domains. So that will be pencil and paper, as well as any other test material. We will order at the district level. You will not be responsible for ordering any of that. So I think they've also learned their lesson in the vendor, in that they are going to provide us with extra material. So we'll have things on hand and don't have to wait for that to be ordered as we have in the past. Also here, you'll find a technology update, and we're working with tech services to ensure that everything is seamless, that the Chromebooks are all set up, and they should already have the app on them. Everything should be set for that as well. And we'll spend some more time next month talking about accommodations and supports, as well as preparing for the testing. So our timeline for this year has already begun. Things are in process right now. Until October 27th, this is the first stage. We're going to be really working on OASIS being updated. We'll talk about that in a moment. The second one is more focused on professional development and building schedules. And then the third portion, December 5th through February 2nd, is going to be the actual testing date. Now, every year, as we approach the testing window, the question is raised, what happens when a student arrives brand new to the district on, let's say, January 30th, so a couple days before the end of the window? And as always, we say we back it up for about a week and say it's a grace period. You don't have to test students. The last thing I want is for someone arriving to the district from out of the country who doesn't speak English or speaks limited English, to have them show up and we say, welcome to our school district. Here, sit down and take a test. So keep that in mind. We'll talk more about that as we go. Now, let's focus on the what's happening right now. There is a deadline, you see, of October 15th for OASIS to be updated for students with IEPs and or 504s, whatever accommodations or supports that they need. This has been communicated already with building PSTs, and it's already done. You don't have to worry about this. The critical pieces are, we need to make sure that we get this information in the system so that we can do the behind the scenes work to ensure that on test day, it goes smoothly for all students, so that supports and accommodations are in place, and you don't have to be calling us in a panic saying, how come so-and-so has not received the supports that they need? Another reason for all of this is we want to early on identify those students who are scheduled or who will take the alternate access. Those students who in the past took alternate access, we're assuming will continue to take alternate access. So it's really about identifying those students who are new who will be needing the alternate access assessment. We'll talk in a few minutes about anticipating getting lists of students with their supports. But here's the key. Here's a very important part. We need to assess all English language learners. In order to identify those, you need to have used the WIDA screener, especially if they're new to the United States. So if the WIDA screener is new this year, and hopefully everybody's had in their building has had a chance to use that. It's gone pretty well as far as implementation. It's just a really light version of the Access, actually. Now, here's something that we're going to do. On or about November 3rd, you will be receiving a roster from Sarah Wallner of all your students who are expected to take access and those who are scheduled to have accommodations or support. Let me repeat this is not for you to spend your time going over the list saying, so-and-so Tim has got all of these accommodations. Is that correct? We are assuming that if the supports and accommodations are in Oasis, that they are correct. This list, in fact, is not for that purpose. This is to identify any students who are missing who should have supports and accommodations. So if, for instance, when we pull the information somewhere around October 30th, if a student has an open IEP, there will be no supports or accommodations listed. That's something we need to have our attention brought to. So just identifying the purpose of this roster will be to identify those students who have missing IEP or 504 accommodations or supports. When you get this, you'll have 1 week to review it with your team, get it back to us, just making note of anyone who is missing information, and we'll follow up with that. Regarding professional development for the access, on the left-hand side, you can see that we strongly urge everyone to review the information this year, and strongly urge is the words, if it is not required. You are certified already, it's good to review the process, but you don't have to recertify again. However, as always, if you are brand new to using Access as a tool, you must go through the certification process. It should take about 1 to 2 hours. You have to take the quizzes, you have to get the certificate. Please make sure that that is followed through. Also, things going on, excuse me, things going on is we're getting everyone's name into AMS. Most people are already there because of the WIDA screener. And important right now is that we get everybody up to date in IC, as on or about October 31st, DPI will be pulling all the students and uploading them into the system. Hang on just a minute. Cell phones are wonderful things, especially when they ring during your recorded session. All right, so let's go back. So I'm going to go back to where we were. Okay, so DPI will be uploading the students and putting them in sessions, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Here is an important piece. Please make sure you connect with your building technology coordinators or technology support folks to let them know when you are testing at the first date and what room you're going to be testing in. They need to know because they want to make sure that you have the best possible testing experience without any issues. All right, so once we get by October 27th, moving into the month and a half or so prior to the test, things that need to happen. Certificates of completion need to be gained by those people who need to do the professional development. There's no need to print it out. You do not have to send it to us. Make sure that your building principal is aware that you have completed that. If you want to frame it, you can certainly print it out. You're welcome to. Also, one of the things that's going to be happening once sessions have been set up by DPI, we, Office of Assessment Administration, will be printing tickets for each of the sessions. We're working to get that done in different colors for each session, each domain, so that you can easily tell the difference. Keep in mind that the sessions are pre-populated with students by grade. It's not by classroom, it is by grade. So you'll have all third grade students in a session. Any changes that are made once the sessions have been set up require a new ticket. So here's one of the reasons why it's very important, we think, to have gotten all the supports and accommodations in place. Once the sessions are set and you've begun testing, if a student has a change in IEP, or suddenly you forgot, or somebody forgot that it wasn't right. Let's put it this way. I forgot that it wasn't right, and we need to change things. Here's what the steps that happen. Student is removed from the testing session. The supports and accommodations that are needed are added, and they're placed back into the testing session. However, they need to have a brand new ticket. The old ticket that we have printed and sent to you is connected to the old settings, the old session. You will need to print the new ticket once they have been added to the session. So while it's not difficult, it is a little bit of time consuming, and everybody has to go out of their way. So what we're trying to do is try to proactively ensure that we get all of the students' accommodations and supports in place ahead of time. Also during this time, this is when staff would most likely be previewing some sample questions with students. Things to keep in mind when you start scheduling. Once you start a domain, it must be completed on the same day that you start. First domain that you have to do, and it doesn't have to be in these order, but you have to do listening and reading first. It could be reading and then listening, either way, but it has to be those two first. Upon completion of that and scoring, we end up with the tiers set for the second part, which is writing and speaking. That time, it takes approximately an hour to get the report, to get the new sessions activated in the software. And so it is possible to do the entire start to finish in one day. Not necessarily best practice, but it is certainly possible. Other things to think about is that you will need headsets, so headphones plus the microphone for testing. I know that some schools are asking me about how we can get additional headsets, and I'm going to be forwarding out to everyone contact with a vendor that so far we've found to be really good. All right. Access testing window opens on December 5th. As I said just moments ago, listening and reading are first. You'll have the tickets, reports will be available so that you can work on scheduling what happens next. Writing and speaking levels are determined by how the students do in the listening and reading. Definitely want to keep small groups for speaking. Speaking should probably not be more than 6. You could go a little bit larger. Technology does support larger groups. However, please keep in mind that this is a time in which students are going to be listening and responding, and speaking is the only session that is timed. When the 30 minutes that are scheduled for speaking is over, they are done. So if they don't get a chance to finish up, they're stuck. So 6 is probably the maximum. It also keeps the level of distractions in the room down and allows the proctor to actually support the students in a reasonable way. You may mix the tiers for writing, for any speaking and writing as well. But if you mix the tiers, tier A and tier B, C, with the writing, keep in mind that the time involved for each of these is different. So that we'll take a look at in just a moment. Speaking of time, the listening portion is approximately 40 minutes, takes about that much, reading about 35. As I said, the only session that is actually limited is the speaking. And the writing sessions, the 45 and the 60 minutes, that may not sound like a lot, but if you have mixed groups of A and B, C, please keep in mind that the A-level students will finish early and really need to stay in the room and work quietly while those who are doing the tier BC finish up. Getting up and leaving, in and out, that kind of stuff causes distractions and is difficult for those who are still testing. We are going to provide, and we will provide, a set of sample questions. It'll be linked on our website if it is not already. But when students log in, this is what they're going to be seeing. So most students will be going to a Chromebook. The bottom left-hand corner you will find a menu choice. It says apps. You pull up the DRC Insight app, click on that, and it opens to this particular screen. And on the screen, they will choose, they can choose the test practice prior to the window opening or during the window, or they can click on the test itself. All right, now let's move on to the Cogut. Please keep in mind that this is a cognitive problem-solving screener. It is a screener. This data is being used by the advanced learning team as an additional data point for identifying those students who would benefit from advanced learning initiatives. For grade 2, it is designed to be language independent. So it doesn't mean that you have to understand English in order to use it. This is the screener version, so it is shorter. It takes approximately 45 minutes to complete, 45 minutes to an hour. It is for grades 2 and 5. When you are finished, please pack and ship according to the directions that you get. The deadline for receiving this back here at Doyle is Friday, November 10th. We'll get the results back to everybody in January, including families. I am going to be doing a separate webinar just for the Cogut. It isn't that complex. However, there are a lot of people who weren't able to make the meeting and would benefit from having an update on that as well. Now, let's move on to the forward exam. Our testing window is from March 19th through the 27th of April. So if you lay that out on the calendar, we have 1 week of testing, we have spring break, and we have 4 weeks of testing. I know that's perfect timing for everything, for everyone, but that's how it's going to lay out. The other big question is, when is MAP? MAP testing for the spring will be April 23rd through May 18th. So yes, there is a week of overlap for the MAP assessment. I apologize, but that's when we need to get things worked through. The testing window closes May 18th, which is earlier than it has been in the past by about a week. The reason for this is that the demand for data from MAP in the spring is really high, and so we've moved things back so we can get data to people while school is still in session. Especially true for all those who are interested in how you did on your SIP goals. Things that are going on right now through the end of November, technical resources are available. I'm working with tech services on things. We'll be getting the accessibility material out. December 20th is when we have to order the Braille portion. So if you have a student in your building who uses Braille, we'll be connecting with you or their support person. Please just keep that in mind and shooting us an email saying, please remember so-and-so, certainly wouldn't hurt. Also, in January, we'll be talking more about specific training issues, and PD for the forward exam will be available shortly after January. Now, new to the scene for assessment is something called APPLE. This is a language proficiency assessment that is designed for students who are in dual language immersion programs. And we're going to be assessing 5th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. So this only affects schools who have dual language immersion programs. It's kind of a check-in. We haven't had this opportunity before. It's structured very similar to the Access in that look at different parts of communication, language, and it is something that we will be sharing with students, staff, and families. Say, here's where you're at along your journey towards proficiency in a second language. Again, the requirements makes it very similar to Access, so you will need headsets, excuse me. It is all online, and for middle schools, especially grade 8, there will be keyboard, there'll be a writing portion and keyboard. We'll talk about specifics about that as we get closer. Results will be returned pretty quickly, about 3 weeks. Grades 5 and 7 are about an hour long. They'll be doing listening and speaking only. Grade 8 is about 2 hours long. So we'll get information out in the next week to all the schools that are affected by that to begin the conversation around what it takes to do the Apple assessment. All right, winding down now. What is new and updated? We are, there we go. So we've already taken a look at the web resources. So if you have questions about what's on our website, what's available, what's not, or if you have ideas what should be available, please let us know. MAP reports. MAP is finishing up as we speak, and the information will be ordered. The window closes at 4 p.m. tonight, October 20th. Tomorrow morning, I'll be ordering the district level reports. They'll be in place on Sunday morning. Monday morning, they come in to our data team, and they go through the process of cleaning all the data, making sure that there are no duplicates, that there are no missing IDs, etc. And that gets uploaded into Infinite Campus. Once in Infinite Campus, it's overnight into Data Dashboard, and then it's available to everyone. That process typically takes a week, so I'm going to say that the MAP data will not be available on the dashboard until the 30th, a week from Monday, 23rd, 30th of October. However, I know that many schools are looking for this data by Friday the 25th. If it happens, if there's no hangups at all, we should be able to get that out on dashboard by Friday morning, but it might be too late for you to actually use. Bottom line is, this is as fast as it can go. All right, other things. Coming up, you will be getting in school mail 2 copies of the student report of MAP data. Reason for that is parent-teacher conferences are coming up, and we'd like you to have the opportunity to share that with families. So 1 copy will go into the student's CUME file, the second copy for the classroom teacher to share or not share. However, we want to make sure that this data gets to families. Speaking of data getting to families, PALS for grades 1 and 2, we cannot print out in large quantities the classroom reports, individual student reports. So this is something that is needed to do at the teacher level. Reports for PALS must be shared with families at least once a year. So here is our opportunity in a conference setting to at least have that available. It may or may not be part of the conversation, but it's available. We'll be sending out information how to print that shortly. Climate survey, way out in the horizon in February, but I just need you to understand that this is coming. We did a great job in getting the surveys completed last year. This year, especially for middle schools, grades 7 and 8, we'll also be doing something called the Dane County Youth Assessment, which is done once every 3 years. The data that comes back from that particular assessment is used heavily in grant applications for all sorts of purposes, everything from homeless support to AODA to our immigrant population. So please just understand that that's coming, and we'll be talking about that in greater detail in February. Finally for today, opt-outs. If you have families who choose to opt out of assessments, please make sure that they're as specific as possible. Otherwise, we're going to either come back and ask for specifics, or we have to assume the widest possible amount of assessments. So they need to have it in writing. They need to have it to either you or the principal. So writing could be a handwritten note, it could be an email, either way. In both cases, it needs to be forwarded, a copy of it needs to be forwarded to Sarah Wallner or myself, and we'll take care of keeping that managed on the district level. You still will need to keep track of it on the local level, the school level, so that you don't end up assessing students who have been opted out. Access is listed here because, according to federal law, students may not, I repeat, may not opt out of the access assessment. Now, that doesn't mean we have to go, we are going to be fighting against families and forcing kids to take this test. If students or families choose to opt out, what it means is that they are refusing to take the assessment. And that's how we will record it as a refusal. We still need to record that information as well, so please send us that along with any other opt-out pieces of information. All right, finally, if you have any questions, as always, please connect with Sarah Wallner or myself, either by phone or by email. Let us know how we can best support you as you work to make the assessment administration as smooth as possible in your building. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for spending your time. I appreciate it. And as always, let me know if you have any questions.